Hello, everyone. Today I'm talking about why it is important to study and discuss the concept of Western civilization. So, the concept of Western civilization and its study is important for today's history students, among others for that matter, because we're in an era where there's a ramping up of forces, including in academia, that seek to de emphasize Western civilization, if not totally demonize it. So today I did look at Donald Kagan, who wrote a 2014 essay called Why We Should Study the History of Western Civilization. Kagan argues that Western values and ideals that allow for criticisms that we see of the West to emerge actually have roots in Western civilization. He started out discussing how the Greek city-states provided for a defined break with the older civilization of often monarchy-based in terms of a sense of the people having a shared political destiny, and then also the importance of reason over dogma. Now, obviously, there were various times where this civilization had breaks and dark ages and then came about in a different form, to kind of fuse or revive into something even more advanced. For example, the Judeo-Christian values of later years, and then eventually the United States, which it was something totally new in the sense of our identity being centered around values rather than shared ancestry. That provided for a more inclusive society that allows many people to achieve the American dream and amass wealth, have stability and safety, and have a society where there's a great degree of personal liberty and freedom, as well as a sense of justice that pretty much any other country hasn't been able to see in such a short period of time. That often leads for people outside of the West to wish to adopt many, if not all, of these values and to be part of that or emulate it. So, indeed, the concern here is that should we demonize or seek to eradicate these values, these Western values, ultimately we would be plunged into another dark age. And in fact, those criticisms of Western civilization would most likely not be able to move forward. Looking at it from an economic perspective, I examined a 2020 essay by Kenneth B. Taylor called The Passing of Western Civilization. And Taylor also notes that the West has had many successes, but he's also pushing, the West is also pushing elements of our economic and environmental systems into crisis. So looking at Taylor's essay, I gathered that perhaps the best way out of these crises, or to find a solution, is of course to familiarize ourselves with the history of Western civilization, essentially finding a cure for these ills from something that perhaps has caused elements of the ill itself. And then in 2014, again, Gregorio Batiza wrote Civilizational Analysis in International Relations, Mapping the Field and Advancing a Civilizational Politics line of research. So this was an IR-focused examination of different civilizational identities and what that means in the international geopolitical context. And Batiza notes that the West, of course, is a central pillar of civilizational identity in IR, and therefore studying how the West functions and is adopted by global elites or world powers and world systems to institutionalize identity can shape conflicts and allow us to understand how alliances are formed and occur. So essentially, in order to fully do that, we also have to understand the idea of the West as one of these distinct heritages or civilizations. In essence, the point I'm trying to convey here is that from historical and economic and an IR-related lens, it is important to learn about the history of Western civilization and examine what it is, what it has achieved, and what it can provide us moving forward in our study together from different viewpoints, even at a time when perhaps there's a lot of criticism of it. Thank you.